Hello, welcome back. This is chapter 8 of our Artist Way creative workshop, and we have made an adjustment to the format, no longer having a group format session, but having an individual format. So I'm going to go ahead and discuss with you the chapter 8 reading, basic highlights of that chapter, and the things that she really wanted to express to everyone who's really following along with the reading. And then we'll get into the actual artist date and the creative craft activity. In chapter 8, Julia Cameron addresses many causes for the artist's losses. And that was really what the chapter really was about. It was about artist losses. The idea that creativity cannot be quantified in intellectual terms, but that we as creatives and most of society, including people that we really trust and value, like our parents, family members, friends, our mentors, even our artist teachers, as faculty and staff, we all have that as our default language and way in which we analyze art and what makes good art and what doesn't. And even sometimes, because of that, is what we may sometimes forget, even as people that are working as creatives, that is something that we tend to do, but isn't necessary for us to do, and that we need to be more mindful of our roles in that as well. But that because of it, it can cause people to be more harsh. It can cause people to forget to be more mindful of that the inner artist is really an artist child, and that creative self of that we have will take whatever criticism or comments or terms and ways in which we, even examples that we use, and ways in feedback that we give or don't give, can really cause a lot of harm and true loss for the creative, especially as a fledgling or a new person trying to find a way to express themselves, trying to find a way to decide how they are going to express who they are, what they feel, and what medium they even want to use. And so it causes a lot of pain and loss, and in many ways it blocks us from and prevents us from even going any further, potentially even ever developing a book, ever submitting your writing, producing a film. Any of those things can truly be blocked or stopped in its tracks, based off of our conventions and how we look at certain things and how we evaluate and the terms in which we use them. So depending on how these interactions or criticisms have impacted the creative or the artist child in us, we may experience it as not only a loss, but it can be a loss of hope. It can be a loss of faith. It can be loss of money even. But the worst part is it could be a loss of self-belief and whether or not we can even do this. And why should we, type of thing, where that inner critic or that parasite, we called it, is activated at that point and really kind of takes over, and we listen to that more than we necessarily listen to the voice of maybe, is it possible? What can I do? So it is a very important thing for us to learn how to survive these losses, these artistic losses. And in this chapter, that's why it's discussed as how we rediscover that sense of strength in our creative lives, in our creative selves, and believing in ourselves again. And so the first thing we need to do, of course, is acknowledge that loss. So no matter how logical, how silly, or even embarrassing it may feel to you or seem to you, that it is important for us to acknowledge it, because an unmoved disappointment becomes the barrier that separates us from future dreams. So if we don't address it, acknowledge it, give it some voice, even if it seems silly or waste of time or patronizing or whatever your terms might be for taking time to acknowledge the loss, it really prevents us from maybe going any further and stops us in our tracks even. And the second thing we need to do that she addresses is that every loss must be viewed as a potential gain. We have to frame it in a way to say, okay, maybe we didn't get that book deal. Maybe we didn't find the agent that we're looking for. Or maybe we don't have the studio that we need, that studio space. But it doesn't mean that we can't still be creative and produce something. Maybe we really want to have the kitchen of our dreams, but we don't. We have a little apartment building with like electric old stove or something. So we have to figure out what can we do with what we have. But the part is to actually view the loss as a potential gain. So instead of asking ourselves, why me? You know, instead of the pity party, instead of like, well, I guess it's because I'm just really terrible at this. Maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe, you know, those types of things that creep up, those, you know, well, why did you even bother? You know, you're silly to even think it was possible. And those types of things. It was just a waste of money, a waste of time, that type of thing. We need to ask more of how we can get this done. How can we make this happen? Or what next, right? So, okay, if I can't have a big studio and I don't have that particular thing, then what do I do next to make something, to do something? So the third thing also is to remember that that is an artist child that needs mothering. Okay, so you do have to remember to mother that artist child, whether it's encouragement, but also the truth. We're not lying to the child saying like, you know, things that are impossible, but we're also mothering the child, encouraging that child to say, okay, there are things that we can do, right? So, but the thing is to acknowledge the pain, to acknowledge that the person is in pain, that was hurtful, and the loss that you experienced, and then to promise your artist self, as a mother would do, that the future is going to be amazing, and that you just keep going, you know, and keep trying and keep working on being creative and finding those ways to be able to express yourself. And that's what really allows you to continue. So that nurturing is so important, both as for yourself, to nurture yourself, and to remember we talked about not being critical, not having those types of judgments on ourselves, but also on others. The more we're able to acknowledge that, we encourage other people, we see that in other people, we build each other up in this process. And that's really the important thing, is to make sure that we're paying attention to that as well, especially as creatives. Sometimes we might be our worst enemies, based off of our experiences and based off our own blockages. And so we might, you know, take that part and sometimes not understand how much we're impacting other artists as well, other creatives. And so we need to make sure that we're being as mindful to that, to others as well as to ourselves. Also, the final thing that, well, she addressed many things, but this is the highlights, is to take action. So this is the piece that really is what she's talking about in gaining strength and rediscovering strength. Is like, okay, we acknowledge these things. We know it's happening. We know it has happened in the past. And it could be something that you were blocked way back when you were in kindergarten, you know, about coloring outside the lines and that type of thing. It could be something that as simple as that prevented you from thinking, well, all I can do is, you know, draw stick figures and that type of thing, and prevented you from even trying anything else in the future. And so, but maybe you always wanted to. Maybe you wanted to see what was possible, or maybe you just wanted to experiment and try, and just to see what it would be like. Maybe take a class and figure something out, but something always stopped you from doing so. And so here, the point is to take action. But don't look at it as these big grandiose things that I have to go and I have to get a brand new apartment with all this space and have to, you know, it has to be this big thing to happen. No, it's about taking action today in small steps. Creativity lies in the doing, no matter how small that is. So if we focus on the process of doing, of creating, of finding a way, that type of thing, then we are able to retain that sense of adventure. This is fun. This is something different, and see what happens. That sense of a possibility as well that we've been discussing throughout this time that we've been together. And then the idea here is feeling the form. A lot of times people will say that, creatives will use that, is feeling the form, meaning that to take the next small step. Work with what we have instead of complaining about what we don't have. I don't have the big studio. I don't have the big space, but I do have a closet, right? I do have a table. I do have the ability to go to the library and I can use their table, you know, those types of things. Or I have a friend who has a studio that lets me go there and play when I can. So there's different things that can be done. So we got to think about what is possible. Instead of complaining about what we can't do, we think about what we can, but in those small steps. Because sometimes as creatives, we have to acknowledge and admit that it's true, that we sometimes will become addicted to anxiety. We will be, we prefer that low-grade pain and that occasional heart-stopping panic attack, and the drudgery of, instead of doing the drudgery of the small, simple daily steps in the right direction. And that's really what we need to do. We need to stop the drama in our own selves, what we're doing to ourselves as well as what the world can do to us. But we can impact that by just maybe allowing ourselves not to necessarily spend that much time in the anxiety part. Maybe that is part of the process of healing. So I'm not going to say that you don't have that. It's a tendency that we have as creatives to kind of feel that, but it's also something that says, okay, it's a call to action. It means, okay, what's the next step? All right, fine, I acknowledge it. It's there. What's the next step? What do I do next? It's like in sports. My kids were always in sports, and I'd always say, if you missed a ball, or if something didn't quite happen the way you wanted it to, instead of thinking about that one thing and ruining the rest of the game and getting your head all messed up, you focus on, what do I do next? Give me the next one, and focus on that when it comes to our art as well. That okay, maybe that ball was missed, maybe it went through our legs, maybe we didn't get there fast enough. Okay, let's get the next one. And then that way we're doing those small things, and we're focused on those small things. We're not focused on the thing that passed already. All right, so yes, we acknowledge it happened, but you gotta let it go. And you got to just keep moving forward in whatever small way that is. That's the power that we have in ourselves. That's the power that we have to make those choices. It's the power and the strength that we gain from being able to take those actions. And that's what we're really trying to work on as creatives, and really unblocking ourselves and seeing the possibilities that we can create in our lives. So we have to ask ourselves, what can I do right now as it is right now? With what I have, with the space I have, with the materials I have, with the money I have in the bank, whatever that is. What can I do right now as is? And then do it. Just do the Nike slogan. When it comes to your art, being your creative, doing your artist states, going on your walks, writing your pages, you're going to just do it. And that's what we need to be focused on. So ask yourself, what can I do now, right now? And as it is right now, okay, clean the closet, make that space, clear off the table, go to the store and get your clay material, go and pick up the piece that you were missing, or get some a notebook, or the watercolor paper, or a new brush, whatever small bit can be that you feel like you can do right now. And go ahead and do that. And that's the key. And then just do it. Just do it and make that your mantra when it comes to your creative self and your art. All right, so now we're going to come to the fun part. This is the piece that we like to have fun with, and this week is in jewelry. And I selected jewelry for this particular activity because, one, it's fun, of course, but two, it's also a way to express ourselves in ways that we don't always consider. The colors we choose to wear, the types of clothes we wear, the jewelry we put on, makeup that we put on or not, piercings, tattoos, all those different things are ways in which we express ourselves and show a part of who we are and that creative piece of that's in us. And sometimes we forget to do that. Sometimes that little piece makes us smile. That color makes us smile. That color makes me feel powerful. So I'm going to go into a meeting and I'm going to wear that power color so I can feel confident and I can really, address the board members and be able to do what I need to do to make sure I get that sale. Whatever that is, that's the kind of thing that we do every day and we don't really think about it. So jewelry is one of those things. That's a creative aspect of a piece that reminds us of different things. It can remind us of special people in our lives. It can remind us of a special place that we went to that just brings us good memories. It can remind us of about a special time. It can do a variety of different things that can help us to trigger and to express who we are, but also to give us that memory of something that keeps us, that's special to us. And we want to be able to share that with others as we go about our day, and maybe bring a smile to other people as well. So that's why Julie was selected here. Now, there are different things that I want to try to do with our activity. I'm going to try to work on with a bracelet, some earrings, and a necklace. And the first is going to be the idea also is that the pieces can also remind us of different meanings, like the strength scenario. And I wanted to say that, so I decided to go to the local Hobby Lobby and do some shopping for today, but also because I love doing this stuff, so it's kind of fun. But I ended up finding these yesterday that were so cute. These are little books, a little stack of books. So I'm going to make earrings out of this little stack of books. And I've always loved books because it represented something very special to me. I grew up with all kinds of like the PBS shows and stuff, of course, and but I always loved reading Rainbow, and reading Rainbow was one of those things that was like just so special to me because it just coming from a single parent home, we didn't have a whole lot, but books opened up the world to me and gave me many possibilities of dreams, things that I could do, what was possible. We couldn't travel, we couldn't vacation, you never really went anywhere, so books were my way to see the world. And I remember a bit of wisdom that a mentor told me when I was quite young, and they had told me that they can take many things away from you in life. You know, life can be kind of tough, and the you know, whatever you want to call that they is, can do a lot of things to you as you're growing up and can make it difficult. But what they can't take away from you is what's inside of you. And that can include not only who you are inside, that determination to keep going, but also the knowledge that you possess. They can't take that away. They can do a lot of different things, but they can't take that away. And but you have to be willing to get that knowledge. You have to be willing to read the book and open it up and to find out what is it so different about that book that people don't want you to see. And that knowledge that you acquire through your life, that education that you get, is essential to what what makes you up, the things that you see and the things that how you look at things scientifically, looking for the facts, asking the next questions, and thinking about what is being presented, knowing that not everything is true, knowing that you have to research and find the right answers, and don't just trust anybody, not anybody. To just tell you what it is. Even when we're discussing here in this about, like, sometimes it's the trust in those mentors and the people that are closest to us that can sometimes hurt us the most. And it's not that they're intentionally lying all the time, but in some cases they are, and maybe they don't even realize it. But I'll try to give a bit of the doubt. But in some cases it's just the ignorance, or maybe their own blockages or their own limitations that is causing them to be the way they are. So don't trust that that's the truth. You keep looking for that, and you keep finding it and looking for those things. So that's why I wanted to make sure I do this. I mentioned this one particularly because it really struck me, especially in today's world where there's so many people out there trying to censor reading and books and banning books and preventing people from learning our histories. Learning the truth about what happened in our histories, even talking about what is out there. So, you know, the idea of like these books are going to are making you woke, or that they're somehow causing you to be something else. It's not. It's allowing you to be aware of what our histories are. Aware of what is maybe even things that you didn't know about yourself, but what is possible in your world. It can also help us with just making sure that we can see that there could be a different future, and that what people that are trying to prevent you from doing that and prevent you from really acquiring that knowledge in a book, in these things that are so seemingly innocuous, is because they are afraid of what's inside of you. And that knowing and being aware of that knowledge and being aware of the possibilities and having that be what they're afraid of, what it can do for our society, giving people choices, giving them opportunities, wanting opportunities, trying to make things different and better for everyone and not just a few. So that was my big little piece of even just going to the hobby store and how things represent other things, even in our jewelry, and it can mean something to you. So that sense of strength, you want to pick something in your jewelry that is expressing yourself, but it can express everything from what it means to you, but also what it represents for you. And it can represent the strength. It can represent that choice that we have to take that next step, to fill the form, whatever that is for you. So we're going to start with a variety of different things. But we'll start with the jewelry. I'm going to set the phone down so you can see. I have a mixture of things here now, and hopefully you can see it better. This is I obviously have done some jewelry in the past. I always try to have some stuff on hand. Every creative, every crafter, every artist is going to have a stash of different things to work with. So definitely picked up a few. Got a lot of different things to work with. And obviously I'm going to try the books, but then there's all these different types of stuff to have. When you're doing jewelry, obviously there's a ton of things that you will need, but there's a lot of stuff you don't necessarily have to go buy. But it is more fun when you have the ability to go pick up the materials. Also yesterday when I was at the store, there was a little girl who was with her grandmother, and she was new to it, but the grandmother was there to help her get her pieces. So the girl didn't know exactly what she wanted, but she was looking for something, and the grandma was trying to help, but it was really cute because she's like, what about that? And what about this? And there's just so much there that you can get a little bit lost in all of it. There are all kinds of beads. And there's these different kinds of plastics. They have like the different stuff that you see from Mardi Gras. You can get beads that have letters. You can make names. You can do a whole bunch of different stuff. You can also make them through using jump rings, different size of jump rings, different colors, and a variety of different ends here that you can use. You can use different types of beads, different sizes of beads, obviously different colors. And then of course you need the cording. There's different kinds of cording that's out there. There's elastic, wire. You can use paracording. You can use even just thread. You can use yarn. You can use twine. So there's a variety of different things there as well. And then of course, or you can use even, here it is. I guess other side. Leather. You can use different leathers as well. So you can see different ways in which you can produce your materials. This is an elastic black cording. It is a stretch. So a lot of people like to use that because you can different sizes and stretch it, it feels a little less cumbersome. You have different clear, and you have different sizes of that as well, so you can measure depending. Now I still don't have all the materials. I haven't done everything, but I'm still collecting as I go. So, but I do want to point out that if you are looking for stuff, this has been amazing. It is a little, it's called a big eye beading needle, and it's essential for when you are beading, especially those teeny tiny beads, because the big ones can work pretty well, but the little ones can be very tedious. So when doing the beading, regardless of what you're making, you want to make sure that you've measured have like a pre-measured necklace, a size that you want. Now they have, I don't have that. Just the FYI, I don't have that here, but they do have jewelry making kits that also include sizes. So you could have, it's a kind of a about this size, but it'll have like the sizes of like an 18, 20, 22, 24. So you can get different sizes based off of the size of necklace that you want. But you can easily measure out the size of the necklace that you think you're going to have. Make sure you have a couple extra inches. I usually like to have extra inches just in case of that cord, and so then that way you can make sure that you're getting the size of the necklace that you really want to have. And then I'll show you how to do the other jump rings at the end. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started on the necklace. And this one we'll use not only the beads, but we'll use the jump rings, so you can see how that's done. But that's the fun part about it all, is just to go ahead and kind of allow yourself to start. But it's a nice little bead needle. It allows you to have all kinds of stuff in there, but it allows you to keep the whatever stretch cording, whatever you're needing, to just put in, and you don't necessarily need to have like a knot at the end, but it allows you to be able to keep working pretty easily. Now, I've been meaning to do a whole bunch of stuff. I have gotten these a while back. I also got these. I thought these were kind of fun colors. And I got myself a really pretty pendant that I wanted to use with it. Missing my pendant. I will find it. I know it. That's what's funny about all of these things. You can find so many cool stuff. Oh, and just for FYI, for those that are like this, these are all dollar store finds, little pieces to keep your stuff together. Allow you to work on different pieces and collect stuff and decide, oh, maybe I'll work on this today, or maybe I'll try something else. I have a variety of different pieces that mean or represent something. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that you can do to you know, add to your pieces as well, as a pendant, as a special item to work with. So just so you know that that's what I'm looking through right now. Ah, there it is. I knew I had it. So I also had found this little, this is a pendant to add to the jewelry. So I thought the colors worked well together. So I am going to try those. I have a mixture of different tools as well. This came in a kit. But you can find, this was a fishing one, so whatever tools you feel like you might be able to use, they have them also in the jewelry section, but you can also be creative and find different ways to locate some of these tools. Like I said, the fishing, because they're also working with like lures and different small pieces, so you might be surprised by what you can find in hardware and at the like at the Hobby Lobby, I mean the Home Depot or Lowe's, or the Walmart's, that has a variety of different pieces out there. So right now, what it comes in, I forgot to tell you, when you go to the store, you'll see a variety of different stuff. But it usually comes in like already strung, and you might wonder, well, it's already done. Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, this is just a regular plastic, but it gives you enough to kind of work with. Many people, it might work for the little ones, but you're going to need at least two for most people's either necklace or bracelet, really. So, but you're going to need at least two of these. Realistically, you might have extra, but you're not going to be able to get the full one done that way. And so, but it usually comes in a string, and it's usually tied. So you have to cut it off. You have to take it off of that string and then beat it on whatever cording that you want. So that gives you like some of those choices. So right now, what you first have to do, that's why you kind of want to also have a solid color like I did with this blue here, so that you can not only see the beads, but also be able to work with those beads. So it allows you to kind of have a chance to decide and see what you're working with. And that's kind of part of the fun, is discovering what you're going to do next, right? So, and sometimes they work really well off those, and sometimes they don't. And then these are the really tiny ones, and that's what makes this kind of interesting. Now, some people will be smart, and they will they will try to get them immediately off of that and put it in other pieces like this. And some people like me, I just sort of just threw it out there so you can see it, but it just depends on how you're working. So just FYI, I didn't quite do it probably the best way. But everyone's going to discover one that works better for you too, and you might figure there might be an easier way to bead the beads, and you might do it faster. And there's probably other people that are going to have different techniques, and that's perfectly okay. That's a part of the process. You're going to discover this as you go, and the more you do things, and like, oh, I really want to try this now, or I want to do that. And so it gives you a nice piece of choices for you to experiment with, but also to like maybe see if some things might work better in different situations than others. So the more you experiment and learn, the better you might be able to adjust to maybe a potential problem or an issue that's not quite working the way you want it to. So it does allow you to kind of have some other tools in your toolbox to work with. Hardest part about the little beads is that sometimes you can lose some of them, so you just got to be very careful, because they like to go away on their own. And now the biggest part for me is to figure out, what do I really want to do with this one? And I think I like the pattern that this had with the colors that was there. So I'm thinking I'm going to try something along those lines. I'm not entirely sure what, but I think I'm going to go, and you just basically thread it through. I'm going to go like two orange, 2 blue. And then I'm going to add 1 white. I kind of like the way that the different size works. So I'm kind of liking that little pattern there, and we'll see how that goes. And we'll continue that until we get to the middle, and then I'll add the pendant. There's different ways to add the pendant. Now you can do the whole threading and then decide, okay, I want to put the pendant in this center right here. So then that's where you put a jump ring rather. and sometimes that's the best way to go. So you can experiment with that as well. Sometimes I kind of like to see where I'm at, so that tends to be, a technique. I'll go as far, and then I kind of set it in there, or if you want to have the ability to change it out, it also gives you some choices. Now I find needlework and ironing even different types can feel like it's tedious, but at the same time it can also be very relaxing, just the process of putting it in, and some of it's a little monotony, but some of it's just sort of like even crocheting or doing any type of a thread or needlework. It does give me that kind of calmness or peace. So I find jewelry making similar when it comes to putting stuff together and taking the time. I hope things are going well on your end, that you are coming up with a nice little pattern of your own that you're happy with. Now, if something doesn't work, I'll tell you what my grandma always said. It's don't be ashamed and don't be afraid to tear it up and start again. Sometimes that happens. You're like, I really don't like the way that's looking. Maybe I'm going to try something else. And that's completely fair. Don't even question that. That's part of the process. It's part of the adventure, right? It's kind of like, well, what's next? Maybe that isn't it. Or maybe it gives you an idea for what you want to do with your next one. Maybe with your bracelets. Maybe you want to do a matching bracelet and you're like, oh, I only have so much material. I'm going to try this. So I can stretch it out a little bit more and I can still get the colors I want. But maybe I can do both. And that may be also part of how you go about making your plans for what you want to put together. Size and materials. Cost is a big factor in a lot of it, of course. Always try to find the sales. Now, of course, I know all this. They always have their sales where they're 50% off, and that's an important time for you to go ahead and take advantage. And each store will have coupons, and they'll have like a 25% off or 20% off one item. So always make sure that you're keeping track of those as well, because it really does help when it comes to buying your materials. And we talked about before that sometimes we use the money as an excuse, and sometimes we also like use it as an excuse for these big grand deals. I can't do that because I need to spend $500, right? But sometimes we just have to be more mindful about how we're spending, or maybe ways in which we can save. So that's also part of the process of what we're looking at here is, finding the how. How do we do this, and how do we, what do we do next? So sometimes it's about, finding that sale and working on the materials. Sometimes we can find things at the dollar store. Sometimes we can find things in different places that we don't realize it. Sometimes you might even find something at a, someone selling something and you're like, oh, I like that one, but I just like the beads. And you might be able to get, a cheaper way of getting the beads. So you just have to start to look and think outside the box a little bit and help yourself get to where you want to be. And then you go from there. That one's going to be a little tougher to come off. Let's try that. Alright, so now you can see on this one, you can see like a general pattern being emerging. You can see that I've gotten them on the string. You can see how it's been threaded. And if you aren't using a regular measurement, you can just pull it up to yourself and see, okay, this is kind of where I'm looking. I might need, and you can decide, do I want just the front? Do I mind if depending on the cording, it might be I want to show the cording. Or it might be that I want the whole thing, right? So it all depends on what you're looking for, and like, oh, maybe I'll go ahead and try that. So that gives you a few choices to experiment with, and that gives you like, okay, I can maybe do a little bit more, or I can then try something else. Now, the fun part about some of these is that at the end, it's trying to tie them and keep them together, right? So, but the best way for what I found is to use a glue, like a super glue, once I've tied it, just to make sure that everything is secure for my beads. And then that way, once the knot is there and in place with the rings, then you can make sure that you have the glue there to keep it even more secure. And it prevents, because you can't help it, things happen and life happens, and it gives it a little bit more security and strength so that you can wear it in different situations. Alright, so right now I'm getting close to like that halfway point that I'm looking at. And so I am going to go ahead and get my pendant that I want to use. Again, you can do it in different ways. This is how I do it. I don't have a particular pattern that I'm going to give, everyone's going to have, because your neck's going to be different than mine. Your preference is going to be different than mine. So just remember that when you're doing yours, you can do it in different ways. Now here you have the little ring that's already there. So you can do this in a variety of different ways. Sometimes you can, from what are the different tools that are out there, these are called, there's the different jump rings, and they have different colors. So depending on what your people like to have, gold or silver or any of the above, then you can decide on sizes as well. This has some gold in it, so I'm going to be using a gold, and I'm going to try to use one that is a little bit bigger so it can set down a tad bit. So you can use any one of these, and you can just open it up. So you can start to like use there's an opening there, and you can just sort of give it a little pinch and pull, and you'll see that the jump ring itself is opened. And then all you gotta do is bead that into your what you want to use. Now you can do it in a variety of different ways. I'm just gonna go ahead and put it on here as my and tie it through. Sometimes it's hard to see. Now you can do it in a variety of different ways as well. For some reason, that is not closing, which can be kind of complicated. Basically, you just keep pinching it until you get it to stay together, and you create a better seal. And then you can use it in any way you want, but I tend to try to tie it so that it doesn't move as much, but it also stays more balanced with the rest of your beads. So that helps me, so it lays a little flatter. There we go. Doesn't want to cooperate. Okay, there we go. So then you can see that I have tied it, and it is more flat on that side, and it's a little easier for you to see the dangle. So then you just continue to go, and you try to do the same pattern on the way back, and you just continue to work on that the necklace. And that helps you to see like some of the ways in which you can make one. And then of course you have the other ways in which you can create your the ends. Now I'll talk about those as well as I'm working on the beading. Some of the things that you can do other than is to the drive, it's the jump ring, is you can have a jump ring on one end, and then you can have the they have little clasps, and that's also on there, so it's inside the same type of kit, and then it's a clasp that you put on the other end, and so then that way you have your ability to put it off and on yourself without having to worry about a knot or something. But then there's other knots, or they have these ones that I've been wanting to learn myself, and it's a knot that helps you to without having to use these other materials, but it helps you to extend the space, so you can put it on top of your head or your bracelet or something without having to worry about retying it or clipping it to something. And those are nice in itself, because it allows you to expand without having to worry about a clip. And sometimes it's much harder for some people based off of their hands, their eyes, that type of stuff. So sometimes having that knot can be a very useful and effective way of doing your jewelry. And it also can save you money the more you can do that knot, because you don't have to worry about buying all these other accessories for your jewelry. But it just depends on what you prefer. So you have some choices on what you're doing. There are also paracords, so you can do like all of this with like no beads at all, which is also an interesting way of doing your jewelry. You can do all kinds of stuff, really. You can do a metal wiring, so you can wire over something like a crystal. Some people are really into crystals, and so they'll create a pattern over the crystal, and and that's going to basically be your pendant or whatever your feature of that piece is going to be, and that's how they'll make their work. So there's a variety of different ways to express yourself in jewelry, and to find the thing that you like really want to show off and tell people, oh, check this out, this is kind of neat, I like this one. And especially if you're able to do it yourself. I've always loved the do-it-yourself items. They just seem to be a little bit more, well, the options there for you are just a little bit nicer, but it also gives you some other choices. Well, I seem to have either dropped, I'm either dropped a couple or I miscounted. So that happens too, especially when I'm not, noticing what I'm doing here. So what I may have to do is recalculate what is left and redo those pieces. So on that note, I may 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, so I will take those two off. Yep, I'll take those 3 off. Take that this way. And I'm going to try a little maneuver because of time. Some people are able to do this from the other when you first do it. There we go. except I have the pattern wrong. I'll have to redo that last bit. I forgot that. Alrighty, we'll get back on track here. Alright, there we go. So it's blue first, and then orange, and then the white. And then we'll get back on even. And now the hard part is going to be the last pieces that you want on the other end. So I don't quite have enough. As you can see how that's coming along there. So then you can see that I'm going to need a little bit more to finish off the necklace. So now you can either create another pattern to finish it off with like the larger beads, or you can just do a solid pattern with the other color that I didn't use. They have a mixture of different things that you can try to do to spread out your colors. So right now I am thinking that I want to just maybe continue, but I might continue with the other solid color and mix that up in there on the end. That way I can spread it out a little bit more and it won't be too obvious. There you go. All right. So then I'm able to continue the pattern to the back the way I want it to. So I can create more of that choker. And I think I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do eight. So I'll continue 8. So it'll be 16 on both sides. Alright. And then what I'll do on this one is put the one ring so you can see how that's done, and then we'll bead the next half and I'll put the other ring in. And that way you can see how the whole necklace looks at the end. So now, same scenario, I want to do the ring on the end. I'm going to use a little bit of the same side. There we go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to then tie a knot onto that one, just like I would do the other, creating that knot. Which sometimes cooperates easily and sometimes not. I have stretchy cording right now, so the stretchy is cooperative, and then sometimes it can be kind of a pain. So just so you know that sometimes stretchy can cause a little frustration on the part of just making sure it all works together and creating your knot. But it can also make it nice and tight and snug and really added security. So it really makes you just consider like what your choices are and give you some choices in general. Kind of poked me a bit. Alright, so I personally am not one to just do one knot and let it go. That's when even when I'm sewing anything in general, I like to have a couple different knots for security, because you know they tend to not always stay for whatever reason. So I'm going to do one more for good luck here, and then I'm going to get the glue. And what I usually use is like a super glue or a any kind of a gel, a super glue. Sometimes I have a craft glue too, but I like the super glues myself because they just tend to be a little bit better. Now just remember that you are using it and it can get on your fingers and it can be a pain. So I do a little drop on the one end so that it can just kind of make sure you're sealing the knot, and it too, so the tyranny is there. You don't need a whole lot, just a little dab will do ya. And you give it enough there so that it can solidify onto both the sides of the knot. Because it is stretchy, sometimes that does kind of cause the stretch on the knot, and that's why I like having the glue. And there's different ways that you do it, but that's the one step. I let it dry. Now I'm going to finish the other side so that then we can get to the other piece so you can see that as well. But that way you can see the two different pieces, and you can, the same scenario is going to happen on this side. You're going to continue to bead, and then you're going to get the little jump or the little clip, and then the same scenario, you're going to tie it to that and glue it together. And that way you have yourself your completed necklace. But that's kind of the process in which we do it. And then that way you can make your own, you know, finish off your own jewelry necklace. And I'm looking forward to seeing some pictures of individuals and what they're able to do with their necklaces and what they end up coming up with. It'll be fun to see. I hope that you guys are able to have as much fun just experimenting and looking at all the beads and stuff that's out there, because there is so much. And that's what was fun, watching that little girl and her grandma, and just looking for, oh, I like that, and that one's neat, and look at that over there. There was like rows and rows of possibilities, and it was just neat to see through the eyes of the little one what she was going to try to accomplish with this trip with her grandma to make herself some jewelry. And a little budding artist right there. And that's the key there too for us to remember, because grandma was getting a little bit tired and a little bit like, impatient. Is that what you want? And oh, well, let's get it. Let's get done. Let's get home. And the girl just kept wanting to look and, oh, what about this? And that kind of thing. And it was sweet. But then sometimes we don't even realize we're doing it because we're tired too. When we're impatient and whatever is going on in our lives. Sometimes we might say stuff or inadvertently, give the impressions of things that that person's, we hold and trust, and we create, a bond with our family, particularly our family. But it could be teachers and different mentors in our life, coaches. But if they say something negative about your creativity at a very young age, it could very well hinder that person from trying anything else in the future. And that's really where, we have to remember the power we have with each other, not only our own self and how we treat ourselves, but also with others. And even if it seems innocuous or silly or whatever, how we do it can cause a lot of pain. And that losses that we are talking about in this chapter are something that we can inflict on others without even realizing it. And so that's the part we have to always remember too, that we have power in not only the words that we say, and we have to be more mindful of that, but also in how we treat, not only others, but, people that, might be just starting out and trying new things, and, they're not going to be perfect right away. They're not going to know what they're doing right away. It takes some time. And so it takes time to, maybe a year or 2 years to really develop skills. And even then you're still, growing. If you were only focused on the end product, it may be kind of boring and very stagnant anyway, right? So the process is where the creativity lies. And that's what we have to also remember, that it's the process and the fun of it and doing the creativity, doing the activity. Baking, cooking, whatever that is. Yeah. So now I got this piece as far as what I want to do. And so I'm going to grab the little ring, just like I had the other one. And this one has that little piece that you can flip off. So let's try that again. It's that little ring that you can clip. So you can see there that there's a little clip. So on the other end, it also has the little knot, so that you can just tie your end to that and do it like I did before, and keep tying to it, creating the knot at the end, so you can have your necklace all nice and neat and professional looking, and as if you bought it at a regular jewelry store. And again, I personally like to have a few knots for the reason of what I talked about before, just having extra security, and especially with the stretchies. I like the stretch, I really do. I think I prefer them over all the other materials so far that I've used, because it just feels more comfortable on, and it's a little bit more forgiving, if I don't quite count the beads out right, or I don't quite have enough materials, that kind of thing. But it is also not as easy to get a knot to stay because of the stretch. The stretch allows you to kind of have some give, and so because of that, the knots kind of can move around a bit, and that's where I feel there's a lot of room for error or possible things to fall apart. And no one wants to have their beads fall apart while you're out and about and everything like ruined, and then you lose your beads and you can't fix it either. So that's why I tend to try to be a little bit more mindful of extra knots, just in case. Do all I can anyway. You can't always prevent things from happening, but you can try to do the best you can to be as prepared for it as possible. And I also try to make sure that I allow for time for it to dry and make sure that it's all in there properly. And that gives you that ability to make sure that it's working well and you don't try it out too soon. So we're going to let that dry while we work on the earrings. And that is the next thing on our list. And what's really nice about this is there are different things that you can do. You have kits here that you'll see, and they have this little line, these little kind of wires. You can actually bend those with your tools, and you could create your own hoops and your own ways in which you want to create something. So you can do some of those, but what's also really nice is they sell these pieces in different ways. So this is what I'm doing for my earrings. These are nice and easy, and these are just the basic back hoop, and it has a little loop. And again, you can make them yourself, but this is kind of nice that it's already sort of pre-made for you, and you don't have to worry about that piece. And it gives you a little bit more options for your earrings. I'm going with the gold because that's what I was able to pick up, but I can do some silver there too if you want more of a silver. It depends on your style, of course. Oh, actually, I probably will do silver. I forgot that this metal here is silver, so I'm probably going to go with silver for that one. And but again, it's just basically what you feel like and what you want to do for yourself. This kit also comes with the little rubber backing, so that way you can make your own hoop the way you want, the size that you want, and you can create your own backing so it doesn't fall off. So here we go. I got my little silver here. Now this is the easiest part of these earrings because it was already made for you. But you know what's also nice that you could do if you wanted to? Is you could get a polymer clay, clay that you can get at the hobby store, and you can make your own beads. You can do paper too, make your own beads, but you can make your own pieces too. So if you wanted to do something and make your own, then you could do it with polymer clay. And then the polymer clay you just bake, based off of the size, of course, and you bake it for like 15 minutes, and then you create yourself. So all this is done with polymer clay. So somebody spent the time to get the clay and to make the little books and then put it together. So you could do the same thing if you wanted to do that as well. Especially if there's something in mind that you wanted to make, you could absolutely accomplish that by just by using your imagination and creating something with polymer clay. And then you can make everything could be all designed based off of that. So here's my little earring. And then I can decide if I want to, how I want to do it. But I'm going to use my little tool here. I'm going to open it up. See how it kind of slid back down in there? So now I have a nice little spot for it. I'm going to close that here so it doesn't fall out. Nice and pretty little loop. And you can do whatever way you want. You can add loops. You can add several little hoops there. You can add beads to come down as well. And then here you got the little, depending on how big your ear is, you can make that bigger, smaller. I can make the hoop bigger based off of there. It's nice and malleable, so you can create whatever hoop you want. And at the end, I'm just going to show you. I'm get these little stoppers. And sure enough, I have a little stopper here that when I put it in my ear, I'll be able to keep it with that from falling out. So then I have my little stopper at the end, and then I've created my little earring. There's all kinds of hoops out there. So if you like a bigger hoop, if you want a real hoop that goes all the way around the loop, you know, a big one, you can do that as well. You can add all kinds of fun stuff. Or again, depending on the kit itself and the size of that, you can create your own. And it makes it, you know, so much more fun for whatever you want to do, to express yourself and add your style to your world and to your daily life. You know, picking out your clothes and having that stuff be there, it's real important. So remembering that when it comes to your style is nice, and it's a way for us to be able to express ourselves, and that's what's kind of cool about all the things that we're working on here. But particularly like with jewelry and clothes and the colors that we choose to put around us in our homes, those are important, and it makes a big difference for how we feel, especially if we're feeling kind of low. That might be the one thing we can do today, is go get ourselves some flowers and you know, make your room a little bit smell better and give you something, you know, something pretty to enjoy and to remember that life is beautiful and it's full of possibilities, and we have the strength and the power to have control over our next choices and what we do, and we can do them. So that's my books, exciting books. I can't wait to wear these. These are going to be so fun. Now I think this is probably dried enough. So now I'm going to, oh no, it's still a little bit sticky. So I'll let that dry just a little bit longer. Just a little bit longer. Make sure I don't get that on anything else. Definitely don't want that. And then I can work on the bracelet. The bracelet is the last piece that I was going to have us work on today, and it is anything you really desire to put on there. There's all kinds of, again, beads that I like to work with, but there's also different things that we can attach to it. So it's just more a matter of what we are looking for. What I discovered was that knot I was telling you about. And I'm still trying to learn how to do it, because I figured if I could learn how to do it, then we're in business, because then all of a sudden I can come up with all kinds of different things. I don't need all the loops and the jewel and all that stuff. So this is the loop that I was learning how to do. And it is a double one here, and it allows me to expand and close, so I can make it tighter based off of whatever I want with that necklace. So if I wanted a necklace to be able, or if I want to take it off and have a big head, then I want to be able to expand it all the way up. And then when I have it on and I want to tighten it up, then I can tighten it up. So that's what's nice about this particular knot. It gives you those choices, which is really nice. Same thing with the bracelet. Same scenario. You can have one side, you can have the whole thing, but then it allows you to be able to make it tighter, make it shorter, or you know, so the smaller wrists. So if you're trying to like make it for other people, but you know, everyone has a different wrist and different, you know, comfort level. So you want to be able to have those options, and that's what this knot does for you. So I'm learning how to do this. I just got these two down. I was practicing with them, so I'm still learning. So as I'm going through this, try to teach you that this is an option for you. They have all these tutorials online too. So if don't quite get it down quite well as I'd like to, make sure that you are looking for those as well. YouTube and Pinterest are amazing sources for creativity and for options that you have available to you. So that's what's really nice. But this material is kind of another cording, right? So it's not the stretchy kind, but this one I think is a little easier for me to work with when it comes to that kind of knot. But you can do it with the other knots, other cordings as well. It just gives you more options. So you can do the same thing with the needle. The wide needle allows you to be able to open it up and use all different sizes. So that's what's really great about that needle. And you don't have to have like this great, you know, ability to thread. You just open it up and put it through. And it gives you that choice to be able to do any kind of bead with that. And so what are we going to do? That's the question. I was having fun. I found some more butterflies yesterday. That looks kind of fun. I love butterflies, of course. I found this beautiful pin that I'm going to try. I got like the little ladybug pin, a little hummingbird. I love the hummingbirds. And then this one I'm definitely planning to do for a necklace I got yesterday. This is the place that I really, this is where we were on our vacation, and we did some snorkeling, and the sea turtle came, so that just really means a lot to me. I think that's very special. So that's what I'm looking at for potential future. But for now, I have so many nice beads that it's kind of tough to choose which way I want to go. And that's why most crafters you're going to find as you go and as you're doing this more, as you're going to start to collect, and you're going to say, oh, maybe today I feel like black and white. That's kind of cool. Or maybe today I feel more, you know, like colorful peace signs, you know, those types of things. It gives you a lot of choices. And what's also nice is they have a lot of different types of charms. So if you're doing more bracelet type things, you can always have some really neat charms that you can add to your to the mix. And that's what's really fun about any of this stuff is fun. But you can really enjoy yourself with that type of thing. Always beads to look at. Oh, here we got some seashells. Those are neat. And oh, that's a pretty one too. And it's a pretty pink. These are nice blues. I don't know if I have more of those blues. Maybe I can do more black and white. Let's see what I can do with that. All right, so right now, looks like I have a lot of these loose black kind of lava beads. And then I have these sort of black and white, looks like clay beads. Somebody may have made these. All right, so these are really neat looking. And then I have some of these kind of flower. And I have this sort of black and white rose. So I'm going to try that and see what I can do with this little pattern here for a bracelet. All right, so the thickness does impact the bead. So if your bead isn't quite big enough for that, then it can impact your ability to thread, which I forgot to mention and which I forgot to notice. So that could be a factor. If it is, sometimes you make adjustments, but that one's going to be too big. So I may not be able to use those beads. But I do have some other larger beads that I could use. It looks like I have these. This might work. So let's see what we got. So these are a little bit bigger, and it's because I'm using this particular cording, and the cording I'm using is because I'm practicing that knot that I was telling you about, and that's why I'm going. Otherwise, those that's why they have come in different sizes and stuff. But the stretchy or the other cording can be all kinds of stuff. So I have a mixture here. I have these nice pretty blue beads. And what is cool about being able to do a bracelet like this is I can create a nice little pattern. I got pretty blues here. And I can try mixing it up a bit. And I also have this nice, this was a nice, it says believe. I always like to have a little charm on there. So let's see if we can add that to the mix. So we can add a little believe to the mix. And then see if I can dabble with some more blues. right, see, so I have myself a little base for a bracelet. Now, depending on how I wanted to do it, I can do a mixture. I can add more charm. I can have just one piece and have it kind of go around. So it's more a matter of like what we're looking at and what we really want to accomplish. So you can end it there. You can give it a couple more little pieces. I think I have 2 of those blues, so I think I might try to create a little pattern on both sides. Alright, then I'm going to cut this piece over here. And then I'm going to add that one. Alright, so this is the general gist of the bracelet that I'm looking at. And then this is the part that I'm learning. So we'll attempt it. So what it had us do is to cross it over. Alright, so you have the cross over the cross. And then from here, you're going to wrap it around once, around twice, around 3, and on the 4th turn, and you want to make sure you're keeping it open. On the 4th turn around, you're going to go up and down, almost like a tie, and down through. Yeah, that's the part I struggle with. There it is. So then that's moving. See how that's moving that way? So it was 3 rounds, and then you're going up and going down on it like a tie. And then it goes to where you want it to be here. And then on this end, you do the same thing, but you kind of give yourself a little give, and then you go on that side, and you're going to go over 1, 2, 3, and go up and down through. And it's coming. Hard part for me is getting it all lined up properly. After you do the 3 and getting up and down, it tends to like move, and that's what I'm struggling with. Trying to keep that so, you know, not only looks neat, and, but it also doesn't get so, you know, tangled up type of thing. So, but that's what it is. So I got the knots, right? So now I can decide how much room I want to give, how much I want to open up, make it bigger, you know, if I need more to put my hand in. And then I can tighten it up, give it a little myself, and then that's what's kind of cool about the whole thing. You can just keep working on that. Hard part is doing it yourself. I'm kind of gentle. There you go. And then you have yourself your bracelet. And that's the part I'm still working on, is that knot. Making sure that I can get that to work smoothly. And it's working, but it doesn't feel like as smooth as I'd like it to be. So that's the part I need to try to work. So it's still, the knot's working, I can adjust, I can move them. I can make that come, and then the more I can do this, then the more flexibility I have in the bracelets that I'm making, and the ability to have for different people and different size wrists. But that's the idea behind it. And then at the end, once you get that final whatever location that is where you want it and the size you want it, then you just cut it down. And what they have suggested is to cut it down for, much further, and then burn it with a lighter so that the end doesn't fray, and then that gives you that finished look there, and then you can adjust it accordingly, so then you can have that nice little bracelet look with your charms and all the fun stuff, and adjustable. So that is really it. Oh, I forgot. Let's see how this is working here. Feels like it's finally drying. So now we can clip this down to the end. And clip this one down to the end. And now we have ourselves a finished necklace. So there we go. That was a fun day, and then a little piece that was there put together, and now we have ourselves everything put together the way I'd like it to be. And so that was the fun part for the day. I really appreciate you taking the time to be able to watch the videos and to adjust to the changes with the workshop. And next week we're going to be working on chapter 9, and we're going to be doing recovering a sense of compassion, and we're going to be creating fairy gardens. This is going to be a lot of fun, so make sure that you pay attention to the ideas that are out there, but there's tons of stuff at the store, of course. You can always do that. Go to the dollar store, find some things, make some clay, whatever it is. You can recycle, you can use plastics, we can use shoe boxes, we can create anything for this fairy garden, but we're going to have a lot of fun with it. An old clay pot, anything you can feel like is recyclable, can be broken if you want to move it into different things, but a fishbowl even, a birdhouse, anything that you feel like, oh, this could be a fun little fairy garden. So let's have fun with this, and I look forward to next week. And thank you very much. Remember, ask yourself, what can I do now as is, and do it, and just do it. Just the small steps every day, whatever you can do to keep nurturing yourself and allowing yourself to continue to grow as a creative person, and to allow yourself to be able to just recover from some of those losses, but also to acknowledge them, but also to continue to move forward, so that you can create the life that you really want to live, and it's going to be amazing. Thank you very much.